Hi, hi, amazing filmmakers, you beautiful souls. I hope you are having a fabulous Monday, and I'm so happy to be here for another session of Filmmaker to Filmmaker. And I've just received so many amazing messages this week. I just want to thank you if you're one of the people that's written to me to say how helpful these sessions are. I really, really, really appreciate you doing that, because it's kind of a funny world we live in where you sit and talk to your phone and some people respond or some people are there live, but it's just really nice when I get your messages. And I just wanted to tell anyone who has written to me in this last week or ever saying that these are helpful for them, I really, really appreciate it. My mission is really simple. It's just like I just want to make the path easier for people, right? Because I think this path of being an artist and being a filmmaker can be so difficult, so lonely. It's so easy to get discouraged. It's so easy to feel overwhelmed. It's so easy to just give up. And really, my aim is just to support people and give them the information that they need and also inspiration to keep you motivated and keep you on the path because I love films and I love filmmakers. So that's why I'm here. But I just wanted to thank those people who have written to me this last week. And if you haven't written to me, write to me. If you get something out of these sessions, if you enjoy them, please do drop me a line at some point and just let me know that. That would be awesome. I am planning soon to actually turn this into a podcast as well. I'm figuring out the technology. There's a lot of things going on here at the moment, just in my personal life. So, but I will get to it. Hi, so nice to see some friends here today. Hello, everybody. So the question today that I wanted to address was, and this came from last week. So last week I talked about what to do if investors aren't biting, and somebody had sent me this message saying that they had this project and they were panicking because there was no investors coming on board. And I got a bunch of people writing to me saying thanks so much, that was so helpful. But then I also got a bunch of messages saying, Diane, who are investors anyway, and how do I find the investors? Like, who are we talking about? Which I was like, well, yeah. And I remember when I was starting out, that was definitely a question. I had no idea really, like, where do you get money for a movie? And my conception of it was very limited, like who I thought you could approach was very limited. And so that's why I think it's a very important thing to share. And I don't think it's regularly shared. I feel like in a lot of books about filmmaking, there's either like guerrilla filmmaking, or not even like guerrilla, but just like, total like, make it for nothing kind of filmmaking, make it for $5,000, which is great, and I'm never going to discourage anyone from going down that path. So there's those kinds of books and that kind of information that's like make it for nothing. And then there's the kind of stuff that's just like, get your foreign sales and get your big name actors and all that. And for a lot of filmmakers starting out, that's just not viable. That's not realistic. They can be waiting for 10, 20 years, and still not getting that. So I want to talk today about who are investors and how do you get investors and who are you approaching, okay? And just break it down and make it really, really simple for you. Now, we'll be honest, I'm going to be referring to my own book today, which is called Shoot from the Heart, if you haven't read it. This is like, this is it, I put all the information in here really of just like how I think you can successfully make a movie. So the question about who to go to, who are the investors? So basically, if you decide you've got a script and you want to make a movie, you have two choices, right? One is that you sell it to a production company or option it to a producer, and they will then be responsible for financing the movie, okay? And just to be clear, that if you go down that route, you're selling it to them. They will now be in charge of making it. They will raise the finance, but it will be their movie also. They will probably have all the control over creative decisions too. Right? So, and that's one route. And I'm not saying that that's a bad route. That's an awesome route and can be amazing. If you get the right company on board, it's absolutely fantastic. But obviously for a lot of people starting out, it can be hard to get that, right? And also you're sort of giving your power away. Like you might option your script to a producer and then be in that situation that 3 years later, the film still isn't made, or you sell it and again, like maybe it does get made, but it gets made in a way that you're not happy with, or maybe it gets made or maybe it doesn't get made as well. They just buy it and they never make it. So there's all these different things. There's another path, which is you raise the money, right? You keep control yourself of the project and you raise the money yourself and make the movie. And what I'm proposing here isn't necessarily like the lowest budget. It's not like you're making it for 5,000, although you might raise 5,000 and make it, but probably in the region of 100,000 to 500,000. Okay, and you would raise that amount of money, and I think that's the amount of money, the minimum that you need, like $100,000 is probably around the minimum you need to make a movie that really has a shot at standing out, at like punching at a high level. I think much under $100,000, you will struggle to make it, of a quality that can really play at a high level. But also, like, you know, I don't think it really probably needs to go over 500,000 unless you get name characters in it. So what I'm talking about today is really raising money for that area. Private equity. So you could be raising $5,000 for it. You could be raising $100,000. You could be raising $500,000 with the method that I'm going to talk about here. And basically, you're going to go to people for private equity. I would propose, if you're looking at that sort of budget range, you're either looking for crowdfunding money and or private equity. And I would recommend a combination of the two, that you raise money both by crowdfunding and by private equity. Okay, so let's talk about first private equity. Okay, and these are when we're talking about investors, because crowdfunding, it's not really investors. Investors are people, to be clear, who invest money in your movie in return for a share of profits when it becomes profitable. Okay, so that somebody that invests money, and it might be a small amount of money, it might be $5,000. You know, you might choose to sell shares in your movie for like $5,000 or $10,000, right? And so that is like, you know, that would be like a basic investment. And then when you sell the movie in the end, they get their money back plus a profit. And that's the idea of private equity. That's an investor, right? They're giving you money for your business, and when it makes a profit, they get money back. Mostly, and I'm just gonna like put this out to you immediately, just because a lot of people go, oh, well, what do you give them? The normal sort of thing that you offer on an independent film is that the investor gets 100% of their money back plus 20% in profits when the movie becomes profitable. And then after that point, the profits are split 50-50 between the investors and the filmmakers. So for instance, if you made your movie for $100,000 and you got, say, maybe you get two investors for $40,000 and one investor for $20,000, 100,000 total. So when you sell the movie and say the movie sold for $150,000, the first thing you would do is pay back your investors. So the investor who put in $20,000, they would get back $20,000 plus 20%. So that would be 10%, $4,000. So they would get $24,000 back. And then after that, the profits would be split. Does that make sense? Okay. So who are these investors? Who are these people who put money into movies? This is what I recommend you do. Like, and you know, a lot of people sort of imagine you have to know rich people. They have to be billionaires. And I just go, I don't know billionaires personally. I was like, if you meet one, send them my way. You don't need to know billionaires, because what you need to know is people who can invest, like I said, maybe $5,000 to $10,000 in a movie. And the people you're looking for are people who can put that money in and lose it and not be devastated by that. Okay, and I always make that really clear. You know, so you're not like getting someone to invest money that like they'll be, you know, like they're remortgaging their house. I did meet a filmmaker once who, like, his mother had remortgaged her house in order to fund his movie. And I just go, never, 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 never. Number one thing is the people that you get to invest should be people who can afford to lose that money. Okay, because although you're going to do everything you can to get it back, there's always a possibility that you lose it, and you don't want to put stress on that person or in your relationship with them. So who are investors? Here is how I have found investors for my films, right? And this is what I suggest you do. As I said, this is in my book, Shoot from the Heart. I'm going to be referencing this. So the first thing you do is you make a list of every wealthy person you know. And when I have taught this to people, they just freak out because they're like, oh my God, no way. But I'm serious, and I'm not saying they're crazy rich, but that they have some disposable income, right? They have some money that they could afford to lose. And I always go to people, like, you might not know, like, there might not be many people in your immediate circle, but you might even be thinking about local business owners. You know, there's a very famous thing about funding your film by dentists, right? You know, but like every wealthy person that you know, and it could be like your dentist, right? And you just make that list, right? And try to think out of the box. Don't limit yourself. You do know people who can lose $5,000, who could put $5,000 in and lose it, okay? The second list you make is you make a list of every single person who has ever expressed support for you and what you're doing. Okay, and they might be rich, poor, they could be anything in between, but just make a list of those people because they will be helpful too. The third list you make is anyone you know who's invested in the arts before. And this doesn't need to be like big investors. These could be people who but they love the arts. They spend money on it. They might go to a lot of live music gigs, or they buy pottery, or, you know, whatever, but they spend money on the arts and they value the arts in some way. So make a list of anyone you know like that. The fourth list I want you to make, if you went to college, you make a list of alumni who have done well financially, and also write down the name of your alumni association. And I know one filmmaker who launched her career by funding 2 movies completely from alumni. She raised $250,000 approximately twice from alumni of her school. So that can be a very, very solid way to do it. And then number 5, you make a list of people or organizations who might have special interests in your movie. For instance, the example I gave in the book is that if your film is about a family dealing with Alzheimer's, you might put down Alzheimer's associations and do some research also on, people who support Alzheimer's charities, people who are philanthropists and for whom that is a big issue. And I feel like every movie has some kind of special issues. Like even if you think, no, but my movie is like a sort of B movie vampire musical, right? There are people who are obsessed with those. You know what I mean? So it's like doing the research, because not all our movies are sort of about issues as such, but like who would have that interest in that movie? Because basically the reason that people invest in movies, and this is going to be for all of these people, all these different kinds of people, it's really generally not to make money. And this for a lot of people just blows your mind, because you're always thinking, we're brought up to think, investment and return on investment is purely financial, right? And I'm just going to put it to you that it's not always about the money, okay? For a lot of people, the investment that they make in your movie might be because 1, they want to support you. It might be 2, they want to support the film that you're making specifically, it's about a subject that they want to have out in the world. Someone said great advice, thank you. So it might be about something like that. It might be because they just love movies in general and they would love to be part of a movie, right? They want to go to festivals with a movie, or they want to come to the set, I've definitely had the situation where people have invested because they wanted to be involved in the film. They wanted to come to production. In my last film, we got $20,000 from one investor who wanted to come with her son and basically shadow me for a few days, right? So there's all those kinds of different opportunities and different kinds of investors. And as I say, what they are looking for, their idea of return on investment is often nothing to do with money, right? They want the experience. And I always go to you just thinking, because you're going to look at these lists that you make, and your first feeling is going to be panic, okay? Because most of us are so terrible about, asking people for money, right? And you're thinking, oh my God, I cannot go to these people and ask them for money. Yes, you can, okay? That's what I'm going to say, because these are the people you're going to raise money from, right? Those lists that you have written, you look at those are the people, those are your private investors. Those are the investors, okay? They're not some special people like magic people that you've never met before. Those are your investors. Okay, so once you've made these lists, what I recommend you do is you sit down, look at them and see if anyone comes up more than once. Okay, so if for instance you have somebody who is wealthy, right? Like they have some money they could afford to lose. They also have expressed support for you in the past, and they've also shown that they invest in the arts. You've basically got a slam dunk. That person is going to invest in your movie. Okay, so circle that person and highlight them. You'll probably go to them first, right? The other people you'll go to first are probably the people that you think would be the biggest contributors, biggest possible contributors. All right. And I would also add to this list, so with these different lists you're making, so the first one is the wealthy people, second, people that support you, third, anyone who's invested in the arts before, fourth, your college, fifth, special interests, and sixth, you can also do a list of possible grants and funding awards and stuff like that, and look into those. I always go, just don't hold your breath for those. I don't know, I spent so much time applying to those before I made my first movie, and I never got anywhere. And after I made my first movie, then they would call me up and say, do you want to apply? So I always sort of go, if you've never made a film before, and I don't, obviously if there is an award that seems to really fit your film, go for it. But don't be despondent if you don't get that. Really focus on the private equity, and people that you can approach. So once you have these lists, you're gonna go out to these people and you're gonna raise your money. And I think the number one thing then, as I say, lots of us do sort of panic at this stage, because we sort of go, oh, I can't go to them for money. And I go, like, if you have made a fantastic package, and what I really encourage people to do not go to them when you just have a script. You have to get all your ducks in a row. You have to have a really, really clear plan of how you're going to make your movie before you approach a possible private equity investor. But once you have all of that, then you go to that person, and I just go, like, however you normally communicate with them is how you should pick up the conversation. Like, if it's text messages, send them a text. If it's email, send them an email. If it's a phone call, whatever it is. And you just say to them, and you make it very casual and non-pressured, right? I'm doing this new film, we're starting on this date. I thought of you because we've got, we're raising finance for it right now, and I thought of you because I would love for you to be involved. And you make it an incredibly positive, great, upbeat thing that's not pressured, and you say, I'd love for you to be involved, and could we have a chat about it? And most people will say yes, and then when you go for the chat, you bring all the, like, maybe you bring the information, maybe you don't, maybe you email it to them separately, but you go and you just, like, give them all the reasons this is going to be the most amazing experience and the most fantastic film, and you've done all your homework, so you're totally confident about it. You're not sitting there feeling doubt or fear about your project. You are, like, in that zone of, my movie is going to be the best freaking movie, like, ever. And this is, like, your shot to be involved in that. How amazing is this, right? And I always say to people who are getting into this, right, and who are looking at investors, I go, you've got to get into that frame of mind whereby you are offering them a once-in-a-lifetime experience, right? But you can get money from anywhere. Like, you can get money from literally millions of people on this planet. There are millions of humans on this planet who could give you money for your movie, right? But they only have one chance to be involved in your movie. And I just go, like, that's the mindset that you have to engage in when you start to make those calls and you start to send those emails and you start to try to get the money from them. Getting into the headspace of, like, I am offering them the opportunity to be involved in something incredible, and not making it pressured. Now, as I said, like, some people think that what you want is really, like, one investor who's going to put a lot of money in. So say your budget is $100,000 and they think, I know somebody, maybe you do, maybe you don't. I don't think I know anyone who could, maybe I do know someone who could put $100,000. I'm not sure that I do. Okay. And I always go, actually, I think in many ways it's better to break it down. So, you get $20,000 from one person, $30,000 from another, maybe two people for $5,000, like that, and build up your equity that way. And the reason I kind of like it like that is I just feel like you retain total control over your movie. I feel like if you have a single investor, like a big investor, they will feel some ownership over it. Okay, so it's just something to be aware of, And again, if there's someone that's really close to you, that's awesome, but just something to be aware of. I think it can be helpful. I think it can be better to sell smaller shares. One of my students using this method actually raised $500,000 selling $5,000 shares. Okay, and she says, I didn't know anyone rich. I literally went to like tons of local businesses and just made it seem like this really exciting, cool thing for her local community and for people to be involved with. Yes, Maggie is saying we need 50 people with 5,000 and we're funded. Exactly. It's like, and it's doable. And actually, like, you will get some people who will put in more than 5,000. There will be people, who you'd be able to hit up, I'm sure, as you go into it for 20,000, or something like that. So one person might buy 4 shares. But it is completely and utterly doable. So many of us have a big block about this, I think, because we're afraid about money. We're afraid about our value as artists. We don't believe we deserve it. We don't think our project, will succeed. There's all these kinds of blocks in our energy around it as we go forward to these investors. But I go, clear that up, get yourself confident, do these lists, and then get out there and you will raise money for your movie. Okay? So that's who investors are. And as I say, I got asked this question multiple times this week after last week's Filmmaker, where I was being told, where I was talking about like what to do when investors aren't biting. So if you do this process and you're going out to investors and they're not biting, check out the Filmmaker to Filmmaker session that I posted on YouTube from last week, and you'll get some advice about what to do about that. The title of the book, someone just asked, is Shoot from the Heart. I don't know, that probably comes across back to front, isn't it? It's Shoot from the Heart. And in this book, I just shared like basically all, how to make one of these films successfully. And it's interesting because like actually what I was reading from today is from page 117. The first half of the book is really all about creating a package so that you can go to investors, like what you need to get investors excited and get them on board. And it's such a big part of it. And I feel like once you have that great package though, you will get the money. It is just a question of time, and it's a question of resilience, and it's a question of mindset and going out there and getting it, but there's nothing to stop you. And I always go, there's so much money out there. There's absolutely, if you've got a great package, you've got a great film, it's just a question of finding the right people, and it will happen. I didn't really talk about crowdfunding today, but I do think crowdfunding can be a really, really, really valuable source of both money and also getting a crowd for your movie. But I just go like, if you find it difficult to get that first piece of investment, do your crowdfunding. Get some money, get the wheels rolling on the project. Crowdfunding is magnificent for that. It is intense. It's a subject for a whole other day. All right. So I hope that's helpful. If anyone's got any other questions right now just about investors and who to go to for money, you can hit me up. Otherwise, thank you so much for joining me today. Also, I should just add, emphasize, so the book Shoot from the Heart, this is sort of, this was so much of my work for ages. I created a workshop based on, teaching people these methods. And from that, I wrote the book. But now actually I do have an online course that covers all this. It's been amazing. We're coming to the end of the first group of people who are going through the online course. And the online course covers all this information, but you get deadlines, but also we meet up online every 2 weeks and have a session and hold each other accountable and and you're coached through it all. Registration is not open right now for the course, but it will be again later this year. I think probably we're opening it in September, so it's a while. But if you're interested, make sure you are on my email list so that you know. And it is the book times 10 basically, because it takes you through it in a whole other way. All right, you guys, I hope you are awesome and having a beautiful Monday. We are having a gloomy day in Denver. I'm just ready for summer. Bring on the sun. But I hope the sun is shining where you are. Thanks for joining me today, and I hope this has helped. Don't ever be intimidated by the idea of raising money for your movie. It's not difficult. You can do it. The difficult thing is creating a project, I think, that you really, really, really totally believe in. If you have that, you've got nothing to worry about. Thank you. Someone said enjoy your day. You too. So nice to see you guys.